Hey y'all, it's Jen and welcome to my channel Ifers Inklings. Today's video is going to be all about Book Riot's Read Harder Challenge. I'm going to talk you through the books from my 2018 almost completed list, and then I'm also going to talk about their 2019 challenge list and the books that I plan to read for each of those prompts. Stick around to see what I did read for 2018 and what I will be reading for 2019. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Book Riot's Read Harder challenge, this is a list of 24 prompts that they do every year. I think this is the 5th year. 2019, I believe, is the 5th year they've done it. And it's just a way to get you to think outside of your reading safety zones and to read books that you might not otherwise pick up if you didn't read it for one of their prompts. Now, in the past, I have participated in Pop Sugar's reading challenge. I did that for 3 years, but the last 2 years I have or am doing the Book Riot challenge. This year I'm diving a little bit into Pop Sugar, but it is not my focus. If a book that I read fits one of those challenge prompts, I'm going to count it and include it. But if I don't complete the Pop Sugar one, it's not a big deal because I'm not really trying to do so, if that makes any sense. Now, I've really enjoyed doing these challenges over the last 5 years because it has gotten me outside of reading books in the same genre or the same, format or the same whatever. And I have read some really incredible books that I probably wouldn't have picked up if it hadn't been for a challenge prompt. So let's start with talking about the books that I read in 2018 for the 24 prompts there. I officially completed 23 out of the 24 prompts, and I was halfway through the final book. So 23 and a half out of 24 is what I'm counting. For this, the first one was a book published post-humor after the author was dead. And for that one, I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I really enjoyed that book. I don't remember what I rated it, but I think I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Prompt number 2 for 2018 was a book of true crime, and for that I read The Killers of the Flower Moon. That was a phenomenal book about the murders of the Osage tribe and how the FBI got started. The third one is a classic of genre fiction, and for that I read The Princess Bride, and of course that was 5 out of 5 stars, guys. I mean, come on. It's The Princess Bride. The fourth prompt was a comic written and illustrated by the same person, and for that I read Friends with Boys. I was not a fan. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Did not enjoy it. Don't really know even how to describe the book or what it was about. For prompt number 5, a book set in about one of the 5 BRICS countries, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, or South Africa. And for this I read Adultery. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad, but there was a lot of content in it that I didn't enjoy. And I really didn't enjoy the subject matter, and it really kind of just pissed me off. But the book itself wasn't badly written. I just didn't enjoy it. Prompt number 6 was a book about nature, and for that I read The Enchanted Islands, which is a book that's set on the Galapagos Islands. I really loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is up there with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for me. Similar in content, kind of, but not really. But it did kind of give me a lot of Evelyn Hugo feels. It's told from an older woman's perspective about her life, a secret life where her marriage was a sham, and she worked for the government but couldn't tell anybody, not even her best friend. Her and her husband were the only ones that knew. Her husband's had secrets also, and it all centered and revolved around World War II, and it starts just before the start of World War II. And like I said, it all takes place on the Galapagos Islands, and it talks a lot about life on the Galapagos Islands. Number 7 was a Western, and for that, I read The Gunslinger Girl, which is more of a futuristic, dystopian type Western. It was loosely interpreted to be a Western for this, but I really enjoyed this. It's a young adult, like I said, dystopian, sci-fi-ish kind of Western book. The next prompt number 8, is a comic written or illustrated by a person of color, and for that I read Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, and I absolutely loved this book. I could relate to it so much. You know, basically it is the story of every introvert out there, and how we feel and how we react to people and events, and how finding the right person to love really makes a difference in our lives. It is also considered to be kind of autobiographical, maybe a little bit memoirish. Prompt number 9, a book of colonial or post-colonial literature. For that, I read Americana. And I think I did end up giving this a 4 stars. It is about a Nigerian woman coming to live in the United States for a short period of time and then returning back to Nigeria. It kind of follows her story, her life, how she interprets being black in America differently than what her black American friends interpret things. I don't know how to explain that correctly. And then ultimately going back to Nigeria and how that impacts her life and the transition between the two. I found it a really interesting book. There were several parts in it that I did not enjoy and that left a bad taste in my mouth on the subject matter, but I don't want to give anything away in the book. Prompt number 10 was a romance novel by or about a person of color, and for that I read The Kiss Quotient. 11 is a children's classic published before 1980, and for that I read Peter Pan. Prompt 12 was a celebrity memoir, and for that I read As You Wish. Now this is the memoir based off of filming the events that surrounded the filming of The Princess Bride. 13 is an Oprah Book Club selection, and for that I read Becoming by Michelle Obama. This was a phenomenal memoir, and I highly recommend it. 14 is a book of social science, and for that I read Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Doesn't Stop Talking. And again, this was a phenomenal book. Really impactful, really eye-opening, especially being an introvert in a world that really seems to value extroverts more. But it was also very, what's the word I'm looking for? Empowering to someone who is an introvert, because introverts really are the people that kind of make the world work. You know, we're the ones that get the stuff done, where introverts are kind of the salespeople of the world. Not that they don't get things done, but we are just as valuable as they are. And yeah. 15, a one-sitting book, and for that I read Colin Fisher. This is a YA book that centers around a main character that has autism. 16 is the first book in a new to you YA or middle grade series. For that I read To All the Boys I've Loved Before. 17, a sci-fi novel with a female protagonist by a female author, and for that I read Warcross. And highly recommend it, especially if you're a gamer of any kind. Gamer Girls Unite, Warcross is our book. 18 is the prompt that I didn't complete. I got a little more than halfway through this graphic novel. A comic that isn't published by Marvel, DC, or Image, And for that, I was reading The Complete Mouse. And like I said, I didn't finish it. I got a little more than halfway, so this is my 0.5. Prompt number 19 is a book of genre fiction in translation. For that one, I read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. We read that for book club. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3.5 or 4 stars. Number 20 is a book with a cover you hate. For that, I read Adjustment Day. It is yellow. It has an ear on the cover. It is just not an attractive book cover. Hated it. Also, to note, I hated the book. 21, a mystery by a person of color or LGBTQ plus author. And for that, I read Trouble Is a Friend of Mine. It was a cute YA mystery, almost kind of a cozy mystery type feel to it, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. 22 was an essay anthology, and for this, I read The Bitch in the House. Phenomenal, 5 stars. This book centers around essays written by women at different points in their life surrounding things that women are often led to feel guilty about, especially in romantic situations, marriage, raising children, working, going to school, wanting children, not wanting children, wanting to be married, not wanting to be married, failing at marriage, being fat, being skinny. I mean, just all things that really impact a woman's life and make us irritable and cranky and make us feel like we are failures at life. And it was really impactful. And it was also validating to know that you are not the only one that feels this way whatsoever. Prompt number 23 was a book with a female protagonist over the age of 60. And for that, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That was a 5-star, one of my favorite reads of the year. Prompt number 24 is an assigned book you hated or you never finished. And for this one, I went with the epic poem Beowulf. I hated it in school when I had to read it, and I had to read that stupid thing 3 times, maybe more. Along with the Canterbury Tales, along with the Canterbury Tales, I read it in high school, and I read it in at least 2 of my courses in college. Hated them both every time, but I went with Beowulf. I didn't love it this time, but I understood it a little bit better than what I did in high school and college when I read it back then. So it was a little bit better and not as hard to get through, but I also listened to the audiobook, and I think that helped it a lot. So that is all for the 2018 edition of the Book Riot Read Harder Challenge. So now let's move on into the prompts for the 2019 Book Riot Read Harder Challenge. I'm just going to go through these quickly because I don't really know a lot about them because I haven't read any of them yet. A few of these are already on my shelves back here. A few of these I have already on my Kindle, and then a few I'm going to have to check out from the library or pick up elsewhere. But again, there's 24 of these, and these are mostly in order, but I did get out of order a little bit because I skipped a prompt, so I'm not going to go by numbers. I'm just going to read the prompt and tell you the book. An Espitolary novel. I think that's how you say it. I have no idea. It's a book of letters. For that, I'm going to read We Are Still Tornadoes. An alternate history novel, The Imaginary Lives of James Poneke, Poneke. A book by a woman and or author of color that won a literary award in 2018. We Are Okay. A humor book, Let's Pretend This Never Happened. A book by a journalist or about journalism, The Library Book. A book by an author of color set in or about space, The Unkindness of Ghosts. An Own Voices book set in Oceania, The Bone People. A book published prior to January 1st, 2019, with fewer than 100 reviews on Goodreads. This book is going to be The Sleeping Giants by Tammy Lowe. This is actually a friend of mine who has 2 published books, and The Sleeping Giants was just released in November of 2018, and I'm excited to get to it. She sent me an ARC to read that I didn't get to. She sent it to me like 2 days before the book was released, so I just haven't read it yet, but I'm excited to get to it. A translated book written by and or translated by a woman. And I have two options here. I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick because one has been on my list for a while and the other one I just found but sounds phenomenal. So it'll either be The Book Jumper or Visitation. A book of manga. I have She and Her Cat here, but I would really love some recommendations for a book of manga for those people that read manga. I read graphic novels. I don't really read manga, so I don't have any clue there. So I'm very much open to suggestions on that one. If you've got a good one, leave me in the comments below. A book in which an animal or inanimate object is a POV character. For this one, I also have two options. Fox 8 is a short story by George Saunders. And my other option is Visitation, which is told from the point of view of a house. And that is also on my translated works book prompt. A book by or about someone that identifies as neurodiverse. The Bride Test. A cozy mystery. The Chocolate Cupid Killings, which is number 9 in the Chocoholics mystery series. A book of mythology or folklore, Circe. A historical romance by an author of color, Alex and Eliza. A business book, Fell Into You Don't by Bobby Bones. A novel by a trans or non-binary author, Peter Darling. A book of nonviolent true crime, Conspiracy of Fools. This book centers around the Enron event. It would be an event. And as an accountant, it's a little fascinating to me. A book written in prison, Cherry. A comic by an LGBTQIA creator, Lumberjanes. A children's book or middle grade book that has won a diversity award since 2009. I have two options for this one as well. Fish in a Tree or George. A self-published book, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This book was originally self-published before it was picked up by a publishing house. Unless my friend self-publishes a book this year that is on his 2019 goals, and in that case I'll read his book. A collection of poetry published since 2014, Winter of Summers. And the final prompt on my list is an Own Voices book set in Mexico or Central America, and Signal to Noise is the book I'm going to read for that prompt. If you have read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them down in the comments below. If you're doing the Book Riot Read Harder challenge for this year, let me know that as well. I'd love to follow along on your journey and, you know, give you some encouragement and some moral support as you go through these 24 prompts. Let me know if you're going to be picking up any of the books that I talked about on my 2018 Read Harder challenge or on this 2019 Read Harder challenge. If any of these sound interesting to you, maybe we can talk about them as I read them or talk about them after you read them. So that's it. As always, you know what to do here. Like, subscribe, share, comment. I would love to hear from you guys. And until next time, I'll see you later.